The city of Novara was alive with noise and lights, a place where humans had built towers that reached the clouds, and machines moved faster than anyone could imagine. But today, something unusual stirred the streets, something that made even the bravest citizens stop and stare. A shadow moved in the crowded square, a figure unlike anything they had seen before, tall, strong, and strangely shaped. With eyes that glowed softly in the dim sunlight, the people whispered to each other, "It's a monster. Stay away. It's dangerous." Fear spread like wildfire, and soon a crowd had gathered, pointing fingers and murmuring warnings. From the edge of the crowd, a young woman named Lyra watched silently. Her heart raced, not with fear, but with curiosity. She could see the figure trembling, unsure of the strange world around him, and something inside her told her that he was not what everyone said he was. The crowd's whispers grew louder, their voices sharp and angry. "Get out of here!" someone shouted. "It doesn't belong in our city." Another cried. Lyra stepped forward slightly, her eyes fixed on him, and she noticed the way he tried to shrink, to hide from the fear, not from anger. Lyra took a deep breath, and in that moment, the city seemed to pause. The wind stopped, the humming machines seemed quieter, and for a heartbeat, it was just her and him. She felt a strange connection, something she could not explain. As if their souls recognized each other from somewhere far away, a man in a uniform tried to approach. Him, holding a glowing baton that emitted sparks. "Step back, girl," he barked. "Stay away from it." Lyra's hand twitched, but she did not move back. Her voice, though soft, carried across the square. "He belongs with me," she said, and the words surprised even her. The monster's eyes widened, and for the first time, he looked at someone not with fear, but with trust. The crowd gasped. Did she just claim it? Someone whispered, and laughter mixed with disbelief. "She's crazy," a woman shouted, pointing at Lyra, but Lyra did not care. She stepped closer, letting the crowd's anger roll over her like water. The monster took a hesitant step toward her, and she reached out her hand, careful not to scare him. The tip of his fingers brushed hers, and a spark of warmth passed between them. Something electric and alive. The people in the square began to push and shove, trying to force him away, but Lyra stood firm, placing herself between him and the crowd. Her eyes burned with determination. "No one can take him from me," she said, her voice stronger this time, and even some of the people stopped, uncertain. The monster looked at her, and then at the crowd. His chest heaved, and a low, rumbling sound came from his throat, not a growl, but a soft vibration, almost like a purr. The crowd froze, confused and afraid, and Lyra smiled. "See," she whispered, "he's not a monster. He's waiting for me." And in that moment, something changed. The air seemed different, heavier, as if the city itself was holding its breath. No one moved, no one dared speak, and the monster took another step closer, fully trusting the girl who had chosen him. From that day, nothing would be the same. The people of Novara would remember the girl who faced fear and the creature they called a monster. But for now, in the quiet before the chaos, Lyra and her companion shared a silent understanding, a bond that was stronger than the whispers of fear around them. The crowd slowly began to move back, unsure what to do. Lyra stayed close to him, her heart beating fast. She could feel his nervous energy, the way he trembled slightly, and it made her want to protect him even more. He was tall, much taller than any human, with arms that looked strong enough to crush metal, but his eyes were gentle, full of a quiet sadness, as if he had seen a world far worse than Novara. Lyra reached out again, holding her hand open, letting him choose to come closer. The monster tilted his head, watching her carefully. He studied her face, the way she stood without fear, and for the first time, a small smile appeared on his lips. Not a human smile, but something that made Lyra's chest tighten with hope. The crowd whispered behind her, voices low but full of doubt. "Why? Is she helping it?" One woman muttered. "It's dangerous," a man said. But even their words could not reach her. Lyra only saw him, only felt him, and she knew deep down that he was not a threat. Slowly, he stepped forward, testing her trust. His movements were careful, as if he was learning human ways. Lyra knelt slightly, so he would not feel intimidated. "It's okay," she said softly. "You can trust me." The air between them felt charged, electric and warm, and she could see him relax, just a little. He extended a long hand toward her, fingers brushing hers for a moment, sending a shiver through her body. "See?" she whispered. "We understand each other." The crowd gasped, some stepping back in fear, others leaning forward in curiosity. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Lyra could feel his pulse, slow and strong, different from a human heartbeat, yet full of life. "I know you're scared," she said, "but I won't let them hurt you." The monster made a low humming sound, almost like a sigh, and it felt like he was speaking without words. Suddenly, a child ran past the crowd, chasing a floating toy, and tripped near the monster. The crowd screamed, afraid he would react violently, but he bent down gently, lifting the child with care, placing him safely back on the ground. Lyra's eyes widened. "See? He's not dangerous," she shouted, her voice carrying over the whispers. Some of the people began to murmur among themselves, confused. The creature they had feared so much had shown kindness, not violence. Lyra smiled at him, and for the first time, she saw trust in his eyes, full and honest. The connection between them was no longer invisible, it was real. She spoke again, softly but firmly. "We can face them together, you and I." The monster tilted his head, listening, and then he placed his hand over hers, a silent promise that he would not leave, that he understood, that he belonged to her. The crowd watched in awe, some still afraid, but many starting to question their fear. Lyra's courage had done what words could not. She had bridged the gap between human and what they had called a monster. For a moment, the city felt quiet, as if holding its breath. The sun reflected off his strange, smooth skin, casting shimmering patterns on the ground, and Lyra felt a spark of hope, a feeling she had not known before. She whispered to him, "Together, nothing can stop us," and the monster nodded. A slow, deliberate motion, as if confirming that he had chosen her, just as she had chosen him. From the edges of the square, some citizens began to retreat, unsure what to think, but Lyra did not notice them. She only noticed him, her companion, the being who had come from somewhere far away and now stood with her. And in that moment, a silent promise was made, stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than the crowd around them. The connection had begun, a bond that would change both their lives forever. The city of Navarra was not ready for what it had witnessed. That creature once feared as a monster stood beside Lyra, calm and strong, yet the crowd's fear had not vanished. Officials in shining uniforms pushed through the people, their faces stern and serious. "Step back, girl," one shouted. "This is not safe. That being cannot stay here." Lyra's heart pounded, but she did not move. Her hand stayed firmly on his, her eyes locked on theirs. The creature tilted his head, sensing the tension. He knew they were not like her. Not like those who understood him. Their anger and fear radiated like heat, threatening to crush the fragile trust that had begun between them. A man with a loud voice and a glowing baton stepped forward, pointing it at the creature. "You will leave now, or we will remove you by force," he said, his voice shaking slightly, though he tried to hide it. The crowd murmured behind him, divided between fear and awe. Lyra took a step forward, placing herself squarely between the man and the creature. "No," she said, voice steady but loud. "He will not leave, and I will not let you harm him." Some people gasped at her boldness. Others shook their heads, whispering, "She is crazy." The creature watched her carefully, his glowing eyes moving from her face to the crowd. Then, back to her. Lyra could feel his uncertainty, but also his trust. She leaned slightly toward him, speaking softly. "We face this together, no matter what." Suddenly, a siren blared from the city towers, red lights flashing everywhere. People panicked, pushing each other aside, and the officials hesitated, distracted by the chaos. In that moment, Lyra saw a chance. "Follow me," she shouted to the creature, grabbing his hand. They ran together through the square, the crowd parting as people stumbled and shouted. Some feared him, others simply could not believe their eyes. As they turned a corner, one official shouted after them, "Stop them, they cannot escape responsibility." But Lyra ignored him. She knew they had to find a safe place, a space where the creature could rest and she could understand him better. They reached an abandoned plaza at the edge of the city, quiet except for the distant hum of machines and the occasional flash of light from the city above. Lyra let go of his hand and stepped back slightly, giving him space but keeping her eyes on him. The creature looked at her and then at the open sky, his body tense, ready to fight if needed, but he did not attack. Instead, he breathed slowly, and Lyra noticed small signs of intelligence in the way he moved, careful, deliberate, almost human in his awareness. "See?" she whispered. "You can trust me here. No one will hurt you." The creature tilted his head, studying her face, and then slowly, he sat down, a soft, low hum vibrating from his chest. Something that made Lyra smile. Behind them, the city still raged with fear, but for the first time, Lyra realized that courage was not just standing in front of a monster, it was standing for what was right. Even when everyone else disagreed, her mind raced with questions. Where did he come from? Why is he here? What can he do? She did not have answers yet, but one thing was certain: she could not turn back. Not now, not ever. The bond they had begun could not be broken by fear or doubt. As night began to fall over Novara, Lyra and the creature sat together, watching the city lights flicker below. A storm of questions, fear, and hope surrounded them. But Lyra knew that this challenge was only the beginning. The real test had not yet come, and she was ready. She reached out a hand again, letting him place his over hers. The contact was warm, comforting, and a silent promise passed between them. Together, they would face whatever came next, no matter how dangerous, no matter how impossible. And in that quiet moment, high above the city, that had once called him a monster, Lyra felt a surge of determination for the first time. She understood that courage was contagious, and together, they could change everything. The night had fallen over Novara, but the city was far from peaceful. Red sirens flashed in the distance, and the hum of machines filled the air. Something was coming, something big and dangerous. Lyra felt it first, a vibration through the ground. Soft at first, then growing stronger. She held the creature's hand, her fingers trembling slightly. "Something is wrong," she whispered, but the creature's glowing eyes were calm, alert, ready. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, throwing some debris into the air. Citizens screamed and ran in all directions, but Lyra stood firm, pulling the creature behind a large broken wall for cover. From the darkness, a massive machine appeared, a mechanical terror taller than the city towers, its glowing eyes scanning for movement. The crowd panicked, some hiding, some running toward danger. Lyra felt her heart race, but she looked at the creature, and he was calm, almost confident. His body shifted, muscles tensing, and a low hum escaped his chest, vibrating through the air. Something powerful, something ancient. The machine fired a beam, melting metal and tearing through the city streets. Lyra ducked instinctively, but the creature moved faster, stepping in front of her, holding his arms out as if to block the attack, and to everyone's shock, the beam stopped just inches from his glowing chest. Unable to penetrate, gasps echoed through the square, fear turning into awe. The people who had once called him a monster now watched in silence, their fear slowly shifting into curiosity, then amazement. Lyra's eyes widened as he stepped forward, not attacking, but guiding the machine away with movements that seemed almost like a dance. The creature moved with precision, dodging attacks, using his strength to redirect the mechanical terror's energy harmlessly into the air. "Look at him!" Lyra shouted, her voice filled with hope. "He's saving the city!" Some people hesitated, then slowly began to understand. The being they had feared was not a monster, he was a protector, a hero. The mechanical terror roared and fired again, but the creature stood firm, a glowing shield forming around him. And then, in a moment of brilliance, he raised his arms, releasing a wave of energy that knocked the machine off balance, sending it crashing into the river outside the city, sparks flying everywhere. Silence fell, broken only by the distant cries of citizens realizing they were safe. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes shining. "See?" she said to the crowd. "He is not here to hurt us. He is here to protect us." Some clapped, some cried, and a few simply stared in disbelief. The creature turned to her, his eyes glowing warmly, and Lyra smiled, feeling the bond between them. Stronger than ever, she reached out, and he placed his hand over hers, a silent promise that he would always be there, no matter what. The city slowly began to breathe again, lights flickering back on, people emerging from hiding, and the officials who had once shouted orders now stared in shock, unsure what to say. The monster, her companion, had changed everything in one night. Lyra realized that the challenge had transformed into an opportunity. The people who had doubted him now had proof that courage, trust, and loyalty could overcome fear. She whispered to him softly, "This is only the beginning." And he responded with a low hum, almost like a laugh, above the city towers. Stars twinkled, reflecting off the creature's glowing skin, and Lyra knew that from this moment on, they would face everything together, challenges, dangers, and perhaps even enemies far greater than this machine. But for now, the city was safe, and the world had seen a glimpse of something extraordinary, something that humans alone could not have imagined. And in the quiet aftermath, as citizens whispered in awe and children pointed at him with wonder, Lyra stood beside her companion, proud and unafraid, knowing that the turning point had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The city of Navarra was quiet now, but the echoes of the night's chaos lingered in the streets. People slowly emerged from hiding, some cautious, some curious, all staring at the creature who had once been called a monster. Lyra stood beside him, her hand resting on his arm. Her heart was calm but full of pride. She had faced the fear of the crowd, stood firm against the officials, and now she watched, as the city began to see what she had known all along. The monster, tall and strange, looked around, his glowing eyes reflecting the city lights. He had saved lives, stopped destruction, and yet he did not boast. He simply stood there, waiting, patient and gentle. A group of children approached him first, tiny hands reaching out in wonder. Not fear, not hate, but wonder. The creature knelt down, carefully letting them touch his glowing skin, and a soft hum vibrated from his chest, almost like a laugh. Adults followed, some slowly, some with hesitation. Murmurs of awe filled the air. He saved us, one man said. He isn't a monster, a woman whispered, disbelief and respect mingling in her voice. Lyra smiled, her chest swelling with hope. She had always believed in him. He had always trusted that there was more to him than fear and rumors, and now the world was beginning to see it too. The officials approached cautiously, still wary but unable to hide their surprise. He helped us, one said quietly. We were wrong to call him dangerous. Lyra stepped forward, eyes shining. He is not dangerous, she said firmly. He is our companion, our protector, and a friend. The creature moved beside her, silent but confident, as if he understood every word. Every eye in the city turned to them, seeing the bond that had formed between human and being. A bond built on trust, courage, and understanding. People began to clap, slowly at first, then louder, cheering for the monster and the girl who had chosen him. Fear was replaced by awe, doubt replaced by respect, and the city felt alive in a new way. Lyra looked at him and whispered softly. We did it, he responded with a gentle hum, placing his hand over hers once more, and in that simple gesture, the entire story of fear, courage, and trust was told. The citizens of Navarra would never forget this night, the girl who had faced a crowd alone, the being who had been called a monster, and the bond that had changed everything. Even those who had doubted her now nodded in respect, understanding that true courage was rare and beautiful. As dawn broke, the city shimmered under the soft light, towers glinting, machines humming quietly, and the creature stood proudly beside Lyra, a symbol of hope and the extraordinary potential of trust between humans and beings beyond their world. Lyra's eyes wandered across the streets, seeing children laughing and pointing at the monster, seeing families talking and smiling, seeing fear replaced by curiosity and wonder. She knew this was only the beginning, that together they could face anything, anywhere, and the world would never be the same. The creature looked at her, and in that gaze, she felt understanding, loyalty, and friendship. All the doubts, the fear, the challenges, they had faced them together, and now they were ready for whatever came next. They together, unstoppable. And as the sun rose over Navarra, Lyra whispered one final promise. We will protect each other, and we will protect this world. The creature's hum vibrated in agreement, the city alive with new hope, and the story of the girl and the being who had been called a monster became legend. A legend of courage, trust, and the power of humans to see beyond fear. And in that moment, the city knew that the impossible was possible, that heroes could come in any form, and that life would never be the same again.